Hello. Hello. Welcome to Useful Idiots Monday Morning. This is the only show where we review the Sunday morning news shows that we watch so that you don't have to. I'm one of your hosts, Katie Halper. You're muted, Aaron.
My bad.
Okay.
I'm Aaron Maté.
Yeah.
That's what I said when I was muted. That's what you missed.
Right. That's what we missed out big time. But now we're no longer deprived of Aaron's voice, which is so important. Now, we also, right after we do this show, what we do is we have a call-in show for you because we know that 1 hour with us just isn't enough. It doesn't cut it. So we have a direct line where you can call in and we take your calls. How cool is that?
The world's hottest after party at 11 a.m. Eastern time.
Indeed. And
On
let me
Monday.
just make on Monday, yeah. At least on Monday, yeah. Let me make sure we're dealing with some basically our producer is not here right now, so we want to apologize in advance for that. Is the link to the call-in in the description?
I can check that. And we're also going to ask people to do us a favor that if you hear an echo when we play clips, tell us. And if you don't hear an echo, let us know. So basically, let us know how the sound is when we play the clips, because we're doing this a little bit ad hoc today with our producer, Matt Wilson, being out. So, and I will add the link to the call-in in the. Actually, I can't do that. I will send you the.
Because you don't have access to the YouTube?
Yeah, correct.
Yeah. All right. Let me see if I can do that. This is a reminder of how important Wilson is. Also, just looking now, we have a copyright claim. Interesting.
We are playing with a serious handicap today without Wilson, but we'll do our best, everybody, because there's so much content to discuss. This is a really big week in the Sunday morning news show world, because this is the first, cable news Sunday after the midterms, where everybody was predicting two things: one, a big red wave, and also the possible end of democracy. And amazingly, neither of those things happened. So we're going to find out today who is to blame and what happens next after our democracy survives, after it was literally about to be canceled.
Yeah. Cancel culture almost struck again.
Yes.
But didn't.
Yes. But you can't cancel democracy, Katie. That's what we learned this week. You can't cancel democracy.
All right. So should we get to our first clip?
Let's get to it. Let's have the Chuckster break it down.
The Chuckster. All right, let's go. We know that you love the Chuckster, so we are delivering. Hold on. I think I shared the wrong thing. Again, apologies, everyone.
Katie, no need to apologize. We're giving
you're right.
A lot of Chuckster content.
Yeah, you're right. You're actually, instead of apologies, I should say, exactly. You're welcome.
Yeah.
All right. Let me know if we can hear this. Yeah, you're right. I'm such a woman. I'm apologizing left and right.
Well, good Sunday morning. Democrats have now done what seemed somewhat improbable a few months ago. They defied historical patterns and an economy that was still recovering from COVID, and they maintained control of their narrow majority in the Senate. They might actually increase their majority. In Nevada, Democratic Senator Catherine Cortez Masto narrowly defeated her Republican challenger, Adam Laxalt, giving the Democrats officially 50 seats. Now we know they will retain the majority. Another endangered incumbent, Democrat Mark Kelly, also held on to his seat in Arizona, defeating Republican Blake Masters in a race that we called late on Friday night. So it means that Georgia, where Democratic Senator Raphael Warnock and Republican Herschel Walker will be meeting in a runoff on December 6th, will not decide Senate control, simply whether the Democrats will have 51 or 50. And Democrats do have a path, believe it or not, to hold on to control of the House. Unheard of, unthought of 6 weeks ago. Now, the path is very narrow, and Republicans are still favored to win control. Our current NBC News House estimate has the number for Republican at 219, plus or minus 4 seats. So it could be as high as 223 or as low as 215, meaning the Democrats could end up in control. In fact, let me go to the board to show you what this path would look like. Look, we have 20 uncalled House races right now. Republicans need to win 7 of these to win back control of the House. Democrats need to win 14. Democrats right now lead in 10 of the 20. These are the districts they currently lead in. If it's in red here, it means it's currently a Republican-held district. This one in yellow is a brand new district in the state of Oregon. So they have to hold all 10 of these, not necessarily a given, but right now, let's assume that. And then these are the 10 seats that Republicans currently lead in. Democrats have to win 4 of these. And again, these blue ones are Democratic-held seats that the Republicans currently lead in here. So what are the best shots of that? Well, here are 8 places that I'm looking where maybe they can find their 4. The California seats right now, we're still counting. Look at this. That's still under 50. This one's still under 50% reporting. These 2 barely over 50%. So look, later ballots could be Democratic. That could help them catch here. So we got a long way to go in California. We should know midweek next week on those races. Then I would take a look at these 4 races here. This one in particular in Arizona, these late ballots have been trending Democratic. This could be a good sign for them to find one there. I'm a little skeptical here. Democrats can catch the Republican here in New York. Ditto with Lauren Boebert in Colorado, and ditto with this one here in Oregon. But the path exists. That's what's remarkable. No matter what, control of the House is going to be by 2 or 3 seats max. And by the way, I want to show you something else here. This number, $7.6 billion. Now just think about that. That's the amount of money that was spent this cycle just on political ads. We've had this roller coaster of a cycle, billions of dollars thrown at every candidate left and right, all for just a small handful of seats to change hands. Not a single Senate incumbent, barring what happens in the runoff so far, has lost. And just one governor has lost, Nevada's Steve.
You see that price tag right there, Katie? $7.6 billion. That's the price.
The price of democracy. Saving democracy. Yeah. Yes. That's the price of saving democracy. Yeah. Small price tag, guys.
Yeah. To save democracy, you have to spend exactly $7.6 billion.
Yeah.
Because again, I mean, what were these same shows saying in the run up to this race? That this could be the last free election we ever have if Republican wins, because Republicans are all election deniers. Unlike Democrats who, when they lost 2016, they blame Russia and Trump called Trump an illegitimate president, but that wasn't election denial.
Right.
Only 2020 was. And to reverse that, you got to spend $7.6 billion.
You know when I wish the Democrats had been election deniers?
When?
2000.
Mm-hmm. I hear that.
I was an election denier then.
Oh my God, the world would be such a different place.
I know if Bush hadn't won. Yeah.
There will be such a different place. Oh my God. Yeah. We wouldn't even need elections probably anymore because we'd all be living in harmony.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
shall we proceed?
Yeah, sure.
Sisolak. Just think about how few incumbents have lost in this political environment. Now, look, the recriminations are beginning for the Republicans, beginning, of course, with the leader of their party, Donald Trump, ahead of his planned 2024 announcement at Mar-a-Lago on Tuesday. The Rupert Murdoch outlets are on the attack on Trump. Wall Street Journal editorial board declared Trump the party's biggest loser. The New York Post has been boosting Florida Governor Ron DeSantis, anointing him the future and proclaiming Trumpty Dumpty. But it's not just Trump that's under the microscope now among Republicans. In the House, you have members of the Freedom Caucus already threatening to withhold support for Kevin McCarthy if he puts his name in for Speaker. And in the Senate, a growing group of Senate Republicans are calling for a delay in leadership elections. First real challenge we've seen in quite some time, potentially, to Mitch McConnell.
Tough time to be a Republican. Your base still loves this crazy guy named Donald Trump who is ruining your party after he had the biggest fluke of all time in 2016 because he was also facing a pretty terrible candidate. But that's hard to replicate, especially when, you know, that election was freestyled off the top of his head. And he's still doing that, stuck on the 2020 election, which he lost. And they're stuck with him. And what do? It's a tough situation.
Yes, sorry. Yeah, my heart does go out to them. Those poor Republicans.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I'm going to load the next clip, and we're going to hear from Senator Elizabeth Warren, who has her own thoughts on this race. Let me just cue that up. Sorry, everybody. Again, this is very ad hoc today. We're not.
This is a DIY.
Yeah. And let me see here. Yes. Okay. This is very DIY. So basically, Democrats, nobody was predicting that Democrats would fare pretty well in this race. So let's hear what Elizabeth Warren has to say. There we go. Okay.
Pocahontas.
Do you have a concern that Democrats can't win if they're running against, say, normal Republicans, kind of like Chris Sununu or Mike DeWine, people like that?
No, I do not have such a concern. In fact, look, Donald Trump, with his preening and his selection of truly awful candidates, didn't do his party any favors. But this victory belongs to Joe Biden. It belongs to Joe Biden and the Democrats who got out there and fought for working people. The things we did were important and popular. Remember, right after Joe Biden was sworn in, all of the economists and the pundits in his ear who were saying, go slow, go small, Joe Biden didn't listen to them. And in fact, he went big. He went big on vaccinations. He went big on testing, but he also went big on helping people who were still unemployed, on setting America's working families up so they could manage the choppy waters in the economy following the pandemic. And then with the Inflation Reduction Act, we delivered again and delivered big. $35 cap on insulin. There'll be a cap of $2,000 on what seniors spend on prescription drugs. We're cutting the cost of utilities, cutting the cost of insurance.
I disagree that they went big. I mean, remember, their agenda was Build Back Better.
Right.
And they just dropped that one. They didn't
Right.
even try to vote on its individual provisions separately to see if Republicans would, for example, vote against childcare for low-income people. They just kind of abandoned that. And it's true they did pass the Inflation Reduction Act, which rescued some of Build Back Better, but I think they went small, but working to their advantage is that Republicans did nothing and had no solutions. And Republicans voted against things like lowering the cost of prescription drugs. And I just think Democrats are blessed to have such, ghouls as their opposition, because even when Democrats do very little, they still come out looking better.
Right. Which is basically what his question is, which she avoided answering.
Yes. Chuck was wronged.
Chuck was wrong. Yeah. Chuck was wronged. By the way, we have a question from Marcus Carter for president. Thank you for your generous super chat. Will you consider dedicating more coverage to alternate party candidates? If independent media can break from corporate power, then independent candidates can break from corporate politics, but they'll need your help. Aaron, it's in our hands.
Well, absolutely. I mean, absolutely. Of course.
We've had on Matt Ho, who ran as a Green. We should invite some more third-party people. It's true.
Totally. And so the problem is when we do Monday morning, they're never going to interview a third-party candidate, and we make fun of the Sunday morning news shows on Monday morning. So our hands are a little tied by corporate censorship, but we can break the sound barrier.
Now, of course, if we had more third-party people on, we'd probably force Chuck Todd, who probably watches our show, to have them on, Meet the Press.
Good point. Oh. Good point. All right, let's hear what else Liz Warren has to say here.
Payments and forcing giant corporations that have been paying nothing to pay a 15% minimum corporate tax. Every one of those things is popular. The Republicans, every single one of them, voted against every provision I just described. The president's leadership put us in a position, every candidate up and down the ballot, to talk about what Democrats fight for and what we deliver on. And by doing that, we were able to address the values and the economic security of people across this country. And it sure paid off. It paid off at historic level.
No, well, she got a point. Again, they did very little, but that was enough because Republicans do nothing.
Right, exactly. Because they either do nothing or they do destruction.
Yes, and all they talk about is like being anti-woke. That's pretty much their main agenda right now, and it didn't fly.
Yeah, which only gets people out so much.
Yeah.
And probably doesn't really reach people who are on the fence. By the way, I like the suggestion from Bitter Almonds, Maté Halper 2024. You just got to reverse the order. So it's Halper Maté, and then
That's
we're on
fine.
board.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks,
I will be your loyal vice president.
Thank you,
Katie. Absolutely. All right.
We got another clip for you guys. Let us go to.
Yeah. So Bill Cassidy is a senator he's from where? Louisiana. And he's one of these people who has been very uncomfortable having Donald J. Trump as the party leader. But again, he's handcuffed by the fact that the base loves him. And he's got to walk a very, very fine line. But he knows that Trump is killing his party's chances. And he also knows that, he doesn't really have any alternatives. So it's tough right now for Republicans like Bill Cassidy. So he was on Meet the Press speaking to the Chuckster about what comes next for the Republicans and how Bill Cassidy wants to look forward instead of looking in the past. And he is just one of many people today who we'll be hearing from on the theme of what to do about Donald Trump, because it's now a serious issue for this party to deal with. Because some people in the Republican Party realize that they can't just be talking about how 2020 was stolen for the next 2 years, that it's just not going to work. Yeah. And what else are we going to talk about today? Well, we're not going to, one thing we're not going to talk about today, really, at least from the clips, is Ukraine, where even though there's been all this news in Ukraine, including the top U.S. military officer, Mark Milley. This came out last week in the New York Times. Mark Milley, the chair of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, is calling for diplomacy in Ukraine, which is a huge development. This is the nation's top military officer. And what the story is basically him against diplomats like Tony Blinken who don't want any diplomacy. But Milley is saying that we need to negotiate with Russia to end the war. And amazingly, none of the Sunday morning news shows mentioned that, which I think is just crazy, because this is the nation's top military officer telling the diplomats like Tony Blinken, you need to engage in diplomacy. And Blinken saying no. And it's basically, the Pentagon versus the State Department on the biggest geopolitical issue in the world, and nothing on the Sunday morning news shows. Absolutely nothing. Do you want me to get the Cassidy clip?
Let me try once more. Hold on.
Yeah, there we go.
Okay, great. Sorry about that. There was some weird stuff happening. Okay, let me make him big full screen.
So what's going on?
Okay, you see, when I hit full screen, something really weird happens, and it goes to Chuck. This is like the third time it's happened. The Chuck. Oh, because it is Chuck. All right, I'm sorry. I thought I got confused. Thought it was playing the other Chuck thing. We have too much Chuck for our own good. That's what happened. All right.
TMC, too much Chuck.
TMC. All right. Now let me make sure the volume's up, and then let's go.
Republican Senator Bill Cassidy of
Except there's no volume.
Senator Cassidy, it is.
Do you hear volume?
You're good. You're good.
The election.
Okay,
so let me just start with that. What did you learn from this election?
What happens?
I learned that the American people want a way forward that actually focuses on ideas that will make their lives better, not just their lives, but that for future generations. Those who are most closely aligned with the former president underperformed. Those who are talking about the future, who have managed their states well, they overperformed. The American people want ideas. They want a future.
It sounds like you just blame Donald Trump for the Senate, at least. Is that fair?
No, I'm looking at it empirically. Those that were most closely aligned with the past, those are the ones that underperformed. We as a party need to have a debate about ideas. In that debate, we need to explain to the American people exactly where we think our country should go. And by the way, since I think using market forces to make the individual's life more free, more prosperous is the way to go, I think we win that debate.
It's interesting. You have not been shy about your criticism of Donald Trump. You voted to convict him after January 6th. When you look at your vote and you look at the votes of some of your colleagues that we know were thinking about it but decided not to, in hindsight, how big of a mistake was it not to convict Trump when you had the chance?
I can't speak to that. Again, that's more of a focus upon the past. The American people wish to have a discussion about the future. I think they really want to air out ideas as to, okay, which party has better ideas? I'm an ideas guy. I welcome that debate. I think our party should be pointing to the future. I think our country should be. And I think that's the only way we give the American voter that which she or he deserves.
You know, it's interesting. There was a bit of a debate between the head of the Senate Campaign Committee, Rick Scott, and the Senate Republican leader, Mitch McConnell, about should the Republicans offer up an agenda to run on. Now, Rick Scott offered up something that not every Republican was happy about. Mitch McConnell said, we'll wait till after the election. So where do you sit on that debate?
We are after the election. We've got big problems in our country. The degree that both parties duck these big problems is the degree that the voter says pox in both your houses. So let's have a debate about the domestic issues, about the foreign issues, and then let's implement. We've got to get some things done. By the way, Chuck, I think I can say this with some credibility. Since I have been involved, or frankly, either in the mix or leading on issues to limit surprise medical billing, to lower the cost of prescription drugs, to do the bipartisan infrastructure bill. We can get things done. We need to get them done. And that's, I think, what the American voter is looking for.
Do you think it's time for a change in leadership among Senate Republicans? Do you think it's time for Senator McConnell to step down?
You know, I'm actually going to support Mitch. I think Mitch kind of pulled the chestnuts out of the fire for candidates who, for whatever reason, were having a difficult time raising the money that, as you pointed out, was required to have a winning campaign. And I think going forward, Mitch will be our leader. But that is not to say that we're not.
All right. I'm going to reshare this video, Katie, so we can both hear it, because we're having a technical issue. Just let me know the time code where you paused it. You are muted, I think.
I paused it at 3:27.
Okay, great. So yeah, look, you got to feel for Bill Cassidy. It's tough. Trump did damage. He picked some Senate candidates who failed miserably. Dr. Oz, possibly Herschel Walker, Blake Masters in Arizona. But also they don't want to shake the tree too much. So here he is now singing the praises of Mitch McConnell, even though McConnell shares a big part of the blame too. And he said something about how McConnell pulled the chestnuts out of the fire or something like that. I don't know what that means, but I thought that was pretty funny. All right, I'm going to.
Must be a Southern expression.
Yes, we're going to remove this one. I'm going to share this one, and we're going to see if that is any better. Okay.
We're not going to have a necessary debate about ideas.
Should I add it to stream, or you're going to add it?
Americans have a better vision for the future of our country.
My bad. I forgot to press that button. My bad. Here we go.
I guess I ask this: if this is the result of these elections, but the Republican Party still has sort of the same leadership at RNC, Ronna McDaniel, Kevin McCarthy of House Republicans, Mitch McConnell of Senate Republicans, and of course Donald Trump is sort of the leader out there. If there's no change there, do you think that's a problem for Republicans going forward?
First, we're not a cult.
I love that. I love that a Republican leader has to, first of all, disclaim, we are not a cult, sir. We are not a cult.
This is a cult-free party.
Yeah, we do not worship any one leader. We are not enthralled by a cult of personality or on this one crazy man who has taken over our party. We are not a cult. We are not a cult. I think it's called denial right there, to be honest with you.
Ain't just a river in Egypt.
We're not like, okay, there's one person who leads our party. If we have a sitting president, she or he will be the leader of our party. But we should be a party of ideas and principles. And that's what should lead us. And I will go back. What we've been lacking, perhaps, is that fulsome discussion followed up with the policy initiatives that we work to pass that will define who we are. Again, we are not going to have one person anointed unless she or he happens to be a sitting president. We should have a set of principles and ideas and legislative accomplishments that is our lodestar, if you will. That's where we need to go.
I understand that's where you should go. How do you get the party there? Because you know how hard it is. You know the base of this party still.
I wish Chuck would ask him, like, what? Okay, so what is one idea that you have? Because you keep saying you have ideas. So, like, name one. Like, what is it? Because what ideas do they actually have on anything?
Yeah, you're right. They have that. What their ideas are? How can you define a woman? And inflation is bad, but we're not going to do anything about it.
Yeah. I mean, he said like they have ideas multiple times, but I don't
what
think.
Are
actually,
they?
What are they? Yeah.
That's why we should be doing this and not Chuck Todd.
Hey, Katie. Whoa, are you questioning the moderating abilities of the Chuckster? I mean, wow.
I am. I went there.
Okay. All right.
I know you guys are all shocked because we play so much Chuck E. Cheese. That's what we should call him, Chuck E. Cheese.
Chuck E. Cheese.
How cheesy he is. Yeah.
He's pretty cheesy.
Loves Donald Trump, or do you think that this midterm could break that spell?
You know, elections are about winning. And so if folks want to look at these election results and decide that's where you want us to continue to be, then we're not going to do well. If people are going to look at these election results and say, hey, listen, the Republicans have established ourselves as the anti-woke brand. We care about being anti-woke. Now let's have a series of policy initiatives that actually help people's lives get better.
All right, so there we go. That is the brand of the Republican Party. We're anti-woke. Yeah. Okay, so what are your policies then? It's about critical race theory. They're going to ban that. Okay. Like, is that their agenda? Is that all they are now, is the anti-woke party? And is that going to fly across the country? I mean, it will in some places, but is that it?
Right.
I don't know.
I just think it won't get out to people who aren't already. I mean, I guess maybe it does work on some people, but they'd probably be likely Republican voters anyway.
I think
maybe it gets out the base.
It definitely gets out the base, but
yeah,
you know,
these wedge issues do that. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's just, you know, and even what even the word woke means anymore. It's been so bastardized. It's
right.
Like many things, it was appropriated from Black culture.
Right, exactly.
You know, which it means something very different than how it's defined now. Okay, let's hear a little bit more of this.
I can point to the examples I mentioned earlier that I've been involved with. Surprise medical billing, that legislation has prevented about 11 million surprise medical bills in this year since it was signed into law in January. That's fantastic. Similarly, we can go to the bipartisan infrastructure bill, which was led by the Senate with Republicans fully engaged in making sure that the average American, for example, has access to high-speed, affordable internet. We can look at those legislative accomplishments, get them done, build the credibility so that next time, next election, people decide to vote Republican.
Look, Donald Trump's announcing his campaign.
They're building credibility. They're building credibility. With every election, Republicans are building credibility. They're going to get there. They're going to get there on the anti-woke agenda. That's the message, I think, from Bill Cassidy. You know, so good luck to him. It is a tough road ahead. All right, I have the next clip. I will get the next clip. It is of another Republican senator, Senator Tom Cotton, who was on Face the Nation. Okay.
I want to ask you as well about what will be
I have to share that. Yes. Here we go. Okay.
I want to ask you as well about what will be a consequential meeting tomorrow between President Biden and President Xi Jinping of China. They're face to face of the Biden presidency. Mr. Biden says he wants to talk through red lines to understand critical interests. Can the U.S. avoid conflict with China at this point?
We want to avoid conflict with China, most certainly in the military sense. I don't think we can avoid conflict and tension in the terms of diplomatic and economic and political competition. I would urge the president to be very firm in drawing those red lines. We don't want to see a repeat of what happened last summer in Russia when Vladimir Putin walked away from their summit in Europe tempted to go for the jugular in Ukraine, especially a month later after the collapse in Afghanistan, or a replay of something I write about in my new book, Only the Strong, of the disastrous Vienna summit in 1961 between John Kennedy and Nikita Khrushchev, which encouraged Russian leaders to rampage all around the world for the next year. So I hope the president is very clear in drawing red lines, for instance, saying that the recent rule against China using American semiconductor technology is only the first step. I hope he's very clear about Taiwan, that we will continue to arm Taiwan so it can defend itself. And if China goes for the jugular in Taiwan, then we will come to their aid. That's the simplest way to avoid military conflict, is to be clear and firm up front.
So Cotton there is basically blaming Biden's meeting with Putin for Putin's invasion of Ukraine. That somehow, because Biden met with Putin, that enabled him, that appeased him, and that allowed him to invade Ukraine. I have a different take. I think, yes, I mean, Biden and Putin met. That's what Russian and U.S. leaders do. I think there wasn't enough diplomacy with Russia.
Right.
But anyway, but Cotton has a different spin on that. Just if you meet with Putin, he will invade a country. That's I think the takeaway.
Well, I mean, maybe Biden passed Putin a note and was like, you know, be a really good idea, invade Ukraine. That would help us.
Exactly. All right. Well, we got some more Tom Cotton, which I'm gonna add now, and basically, you know, we all have our inspirations for who we turn to for, wisdom. And Tom Cotton, I think, I haven't seen this before. He quoted someone who's a very, wise man, and that is the wrestler Ric Flair. So let us hear Tom Cotton quote Ric Flair.
Should leadership elections in the Senate be delayed until December? And should Mitch McConnell remain as a Republican leader in the Senate?
Well, I don't see why we would delay the election, since all 5 or 6 of our leadership elections are uncontested. You know, the great wrestling champion Ric Flair used to say, to be the man, you got to beat the man. And so far, no one's had the nerve to step forward and challenge Senator McConnell. So I support Senator McConnell. I support the other slate of candidates for our leadership elections. I think it's better that we move forward with these elections so we can focus again on the Georgia runoff.
So if I were Margaret Brennan, I would have said, sir, did you just quote a wrestler, a professional wrestler, for your political outlook?
Analysis.
And do you know that wrestling is fake? That they're just dressing up and pretending?
Right. Exactly. Yeah. It's key fob. Yeah. I know that word from Leslie Lee. Shout out to Leslie Lee.
Key fob. Okay.
Struggle session. Key fabe, maybe. K-fabe, K-fob, one of those. Yeah.
To be the man, you got to beat the man. Said Ric Flair, the wrestler.
That is a good line, though.
Ric Flair, the wrestler, also said, "Woo!" That was also his big tagline.
Yeah.
I wish Tom cut into that.
He also said, "Jump."
That's what he. Okay, yeah. But I want to see Tom Cotton come back on Face the Nation, like maybe after, if Republicans win the next election cycle. And he said, as the wrestler Ric Flair said, "Woo!"
Exactly.
Yeah.
And by the way, the people have spoken. It's kayfabe. I said key fob, which is funny because it does sound like it's the thing you open doors with.
And what does that mean?
It just means fake, right? Am I right that it means fake? Let me know.
That makes sense. That makes sense.
Yeah,
that definitely makes sense. All right. Well, we're going to turn now to the Democrats, where, despite the fact that democracy was saved, there's still danger ahead. And that is that those doggone election deniers are still in office. Some of them still won. In fact, a lot of them won. So Jamie Raskin's going to tell us exactly how many election deniers are still in our midst.
Didn't prevail in the key battleground, but CBS tallied it, and at least 155 House Republicans in the new Congress have raised unfounded doubts about the validity or integrity of the 2020 election. These are going to be your colleagues that you will be working with. What change is that going to affect in the work you do?
Well, that's a statement about the political contamination of the GOP by Donald Trump. And again, Kevin McCarthy and other leaders within the Republican Party are now required to make a decision about whether they're going to try to rid themselves of Donald Trump and his toxic influence on the party.
But these 155 House Republicans are his constituency. Kevin McCarthy, if he wants to be leader, will need to consider.
Yes.
The
well,
needs
it's
of
a real
everyone.
problem for Kevin McCarthy now because there are certain pro-Trumpists within his House caucus who refuse to accept that he's really with Trump, and they want to get rid of McCarthy. And some of them, they have names very early in the alphabet, like Biggs, and they might just vote for Trump when they, take the roll call for speaker. So we know that the hard right Freedom Caucus people are in search of another candidate. And one potential candidate whose name has been floated is Donald Trump himself, because the Speaker of the House does not have to be a member of the House. And they are talking about putting Trump right there.
Donald J. Trump might become the next House Speaker. That is the scenario that Jamie Raskin is laying out. And I'd forgotten about this, but this is true. The Speaker doesn't have to be an elected member of Congress. And so Raskin is warning that one candidate, if McCarthy can't pull it off, and McCarthy is facing a tough road ahead, could be Donald Trump. You're muted, Katie.
That is crazy. That is a crazy idea.
I don't think actually it's going to happen, but I love that Jamie Raskin is putting it out there as a possibility. And,
it shows he thinks outside the box.
Yeah, he's definitely thinking outside the box. And look, I'm sorry to be a broken record. I say this a lot, but this term election denier, I feel, is unfair because, again, yes, there was a riot. There was on January 6th, there was Trump's insane allegations that the election was stolen from him with Chinese and Venezuelan voting machines. All that was crazy. But that's not the only form of election denialism we've had. And I think calling the president a Russian agent, subjecting him to a multi-year investigation, using, talking about impeachment constantly, and saying that the election was stolen and that Trump was installed by Vladimir Putin, that to me is a form of election denialism. And that's why in 2016, there were polls showing that a majority of Democratic voters, thought that Russia had messed with the vote tallies in those elections. So that to me is a form of election denialism as well. But the problem is the, U.S. media like Face the Nation and CBS went along with all that. And so that's why they're never going to call what they did election denialism, when to me it's really pretty much the same thing.
Yeah. Election denial is in the eye of the beholder, as the old saying says.
I mean, that's what I think.
Yeah. By the way, can I do a shameless plug for myself?
Sure, please. Yeah.
Guys, I'm putting the link in. I just want everyone to have the opportunity to see me live. I want to see you guys live, honestly. This is selfish reasons. You can do that this Tuesday, and Aaron's going to be there, I think. Hopefully.
I don't give away. I don't give away my
right
public
location.
plans.
Aaron's not going to be there. Definitely not going to be there. But I got to give unfortunately, I don't like to tell people where I am, but this is a live event that you have to attend. So please come out to the People's Forum this Tuesday at 7 p.m. All the doors open at 6:30 p.m. I'll be interviewing Miko Peled, who is a fascinating guy who is a one-state solution advocate for the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. And really fascinating because he's the son of a decorated Israeli general, and he's come a long way. He used to be a proud Zionist, and tragically, his niece was killed in a suicide bombing. And for a lot of people, that would make them kind of vindictive and not believe in any kind of one-state solution at all. But he is a big one-state solution guy. So please do come out. All right. It's in Manhattan.
It's in Manhattan at the People's Forum.
At the People's Forum. And they are located at where are they?
They're on 37th Street, I think.
Yeah, 37th between 8th and 9th. Yeah.
And but if you're not in New York City, this is a live recording of the Katie Halper Show, so you can catch it.
You can watch it there. Yeah.
Katie Halper Show.
Yeah, it's 320 West 37th Street. Yeah, so you can catch it at youtube.com/the Katie Halper Show. But of course, if you're in the tri-state area, if you're even in a 3-hour range, why not make that journey?
You got to make the trek.
You got to make that trek. You don't need tickets. You can get them in the. You can RSVP on their website. But oh my God, there was a fly. Sorry about that. And you'll see. There won't be any flies there, though. Hopefully.
All right. So Wilson, so we have Wilson now on the line. So welcome, Wilson, to the stream, and we're actually going to go to clip 8. I said clip 7 in the chat, but we actually want to do clip 8 because we've just heard Jamie Raskin float Donald J. Trump as the possible next House Speaker, which would be hilarious. I mean, the thing is, do you think Trump would even want that job if he was offered to it? Because that would mean the House Speaker means you actually have to do something. You have to be involved in policy, legislation. You have to, respect the House rules. You have to pay attention, which I don't think the guy is capable of doing. So I don't see him wanting that job, even if there was enough votes for him to do it.
Right. By the way, I have to say, someone just said that someone was impersonating you the other day in a Garland Nixon stream. Lol. Oh, not us. Sorry, that wasn't about us. I was going to try to figure out who it was so we could find the impersonation, but I guess it was about someone else. Sorry about that.
Well, this is why, Katie, I never read the comments.
Yeah, it would have been good though to find out because we could have invited them on.
I'm just kidding. I do read the comments. I'm just teasing. All right. So, yeah. So we want Wilson clip number 8. Not
kind of been on an island.
There we go. Yes. So this is Governor Larry Hogan, a Republican of Maryland, and man, he is not happy with where Donald Trump is taking his party, and he's going to vent on
his new frames.
Okay, really?
He doesn't usually have glasses. Yeah.
Really? Okay.
You've kind of been on an island.
Right.
Maybe a few others are with you as a Republican warning against GOP extremism and specifically election denialism. How do you interpret the results?
Well, yeah, I've been talking about this for years, and it seemed as if I was the only one talking about it. But today there are a whole lot more people talking about it, and the way I would interpret it, look, this should have been a huge red wave. It should have been one of the biggest red waves we've ever had because, the President Biden's approval rating was so low, one of the lowest historically. More than 70% of the people thought the country was going in the wrong direction, and yet we still didn't perform. And I think common sense conservatives that focused on talking about issues people cared about, like the economy and crime and education, they did win. But people who tried to relitigate the 2020 election and focused on conspiracy theories and talked about things the voters didn't care about, they were almost universally rejected. And I think it's basically the third election in a row that Donald Trump has cost us the race. And it's like, 3 strikes, you're out.
Well, do you think that's true? Because we've heard that after 1 strike and 2 strikes, to keep your analogy going.
Well, the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result. And Donald Trump, it kept saying, we're going to be winning so much, we'll get tired of winning. I'm tired of losing. I mean, that's all he's done.
So you don't think that?
I'm tired of losing. He's throwing down the gauntlet.
He is. It sounds like a wrestling move.
Yeah, I am tired of losing. I like it. I like this honesty.
This vulnerability.
Yeah, it's very vulnerable. It's very vulnerable. Yeah, I mean, arguably, the Republicans are a much more vulnerable and emotionally honest party than the Democrats right now. I mean, they're winning the vulnerability race for sure.
They are, yeah. Yeah. Who knew that? Who knew we could go to Republicans for kind of self-help?
I mean, things are very different. Things are very, very different. Yeah, this is not your grandparents' Republican Party. This is a new vulnerable Republican Party.
Yeah, they've been reading Chicken Soup for the Soul.
That's right.
Or Gretchen. What's her name? Gretchen, the woman who writes about shame.
Don't know her name.
No, and I think I'm not giving the right name either.
Gretchen sounds like a good name for someone writing about shame for sure.
I think it's with a B. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, look, he's sick of it. So what's going to happen? Can they get rid of this guy? Can they get rid of Trump? That's the question, I guess, going forward.
And guys, I haven't said this yet, but how are we on the likes? Thank you, Brene Brown. That's who it is. Yeah.
Brene Brown. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
How are we on the likes, Wilson? Or Aaron, can you tell me? Or
like update time. All right. Let's see here. Well, okay. We're at We have over 2,000 watching, and we have about 870
Oh my
likes.
God.
So
let's
get it
it
up.
to 1,000.
Yeah. Yes, we were a little hobbled today.
True, right.
But we did our best.
We did our best, yeah. And we
And
really appreciate you standing by our sides.
Yes. And the best way you can do that is with a like, because not only does it, help our self-esteem, but it also beats the algorithm.
Fucking fly.
Yeah.
I just slapped a fly like 3 times and it still escaped.
Wow.
I didn't do it hard enough because ever since having a dog, it's harder for me to kill animals. I make it sound like I do it frequently. I just mean insects.
You're just a constant fly slapper.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I couldn't.
I mean, it's hard to slap. I mean, they're quick and they're also
quick.
resilient.
Right.
Yeah.
That's the thing. This one was resilient because I did it a couple times. I think I didn't have it in me. And instead I hurt myself, which sounds bad. You're not supposed to say it hurts me more than it hurts you, Fly, but it did.
No, you're not. No. And if we get taken off the air next week, it's because it's for animal cruelty. Yeah,
exactly.
That violates federal laws, I think. So
yeah.
By watching this show, you're kind of a badass.
Yeah. And we hit 1,000, so we can continue.
Oh, thanks everybody. Thank you so much. All right. Well, look, again, remember how in the lead up to the election, there was this constant talk. This could be our last free election if Republicans win because they're all election deniers and democracy is on the ballot. Well, guess what, everybody? Democracy prevailed. And let's hear how some of the people who fear-mongered about democracy being on its last legs are handling the fact that democracy unexpectedly is still here. And we're going to have more free elections down the line because Democrats won.
So a lot of the things you've had to say, and I hope my viewers all follow.
This is Michael Beschloss, who is the presidential historian for NBC News, whatever that means.
Who had a very offensive tweet about like the Rosenbergs, basically being like, "Well, the Rosenbergs were killed for this." When Trump was, when Trump had the documents allegedly at Mar-a-Lago.
Oh, the documents. Wow. How can we forget about the documents? You remember that?
I know. It's like he was citing the execution of the Rosenbergs as if it was something that should be replicated, as opposed to a very dark chapter in American history.
Dave Chappelle had the funniest joke about that in his monologue this week on SNL, where he was like,
"Oh yeah, that was funny." Yeah,
he's like, "I've been fired from many for stealing material from." I'm sorry, I hate to do someone else's joke. I'm sorry.
No, he was like, I've been fired lots of times, and I stole stuff from work, like a stapler here and there, but I never stole work from work. Yeah.
All right, let's hear how Michael Beschloss is greeting the news that actually democracy didn't die. Everybody, it's still here.
We've heard a lot of the things you've had to say, and I hope my viewers all follow you on Twitter because you've got a lot of interesting stuff, and I want to talk about the broader implications of last night. But to the point about your wonderful book, Presidents of War, it will, I'm not sure it's dawned on everybody that President Biden may, we're not done with this yet, but President Biden may be the president who brought America's greatest adversary to its knees through its support of Ukraine in this invasion by Russia. Something that McCarthy and Republicans have said they will pull back on if they control Congress. Biden has done a lot of things that his 44% approval rating does not, in the opinion of some people, reflect.
All right, before we hear this answer, I just want to point out, so Velshi says that Biden has brought Russia to its knees. Well, meanwhile, actually, right now, Biden administration officials are talking with their Russian counterparts about how to end this war. And as I said earlier, General Mark Milley, the nation's top military officer, is urging diplomacy with Russia, which is not a sign to me that they've brought Russia to its knees. They've certainly bled Russia, and Russia's lost a lot of people, and Russia spent a lot of money, and Russia's been battered by this. But if the U.S. really had brought Russia to its knees, I don't think they'd be trying to negotiate an end to the proxy war right now, or at least some people in the administration would be trying to negotiate an end to it.
Right. I mean, to be fair, though, they have tried to weaken them, right? And I think they want to weaken them as much as they could before negotiating.
Absolutely. And they definitely succeeded there because
they brought them to their shins, maybe. But also, can we just remind people, Aaron, you had a personal interaction, on Twitter with Ali Velshi. Do you want to share with people what that was?
Oh, that's right. Yeah. Well, credit to Ali Velshi for, first of all, engaging with someone critical, someone who doesn't share his opinion. But he was basically, this was early on after Russia's invasion, and he said something that suggested to me that he wanted military intervention, direct U.S. military intervention in Ukraine. And so I asked him to clarify, and he said, yes, I'm calling for direct U.S. military intervention in Ukraine. And I appreciate his honesty, because most people who favor that don't have the honesty to say that they want World War III. So credit to him for being honest about that.
Yeah. I mean, it's a scary thing, but it's still appreciated when people just acknowledge the facts on the ground and what they're saying.
Yeah, because some people will basically call for it, but they'll dance around it, you know. And he was basically saying, I want direct U.S. military intervention. Now, thankfully, the U.S. hasn't done that, because I don't think World War III is in anybody's interest. But
well, apparently it's in Ali Velshi.
It's in Ali Velshi's interest, yeah. Ali Velshi, who used to be on Al Jazeera America and used to bring on people like Stephen F. Cohen, the late scholar. And but once you get into MSNBC land, you can't really do that anymore. You can't bring on people like Stephen F. Cohen anymore. You can only be bringing on war hawks and advocating directly for World War III.
Right. And did you see Beschloss? He was so excited when he brought up the bringing them to his knees. He was like,
well, all right. Well, let's go back to Beschloss and see how he answers this question, because it's
right. Yeah, he sure has. And the biggest one we're seeing this week, because, for all of us who love American democracy, and this includes all of our friends, or nearly all of them, who are watching this morning, this is the week for us. Democracy is a rising sun we see now, not a setting sun. Just 7 or 10 days ago, there were a lot of people, as you know, Ali, who were predicting that we would be seeing this week chaos. There might be outbreaks of violence. There would be Republican candidates who lost the election all over the United States denying that they had ever lost and demanding to be installed. There were people predicting that this week we would see our last free and fair election.
I'm pretty sure that Michael Beschloss was among those people, and if he wasn't, then everybody else on MSNBC was. And now they have to walk all that back because their side won. So
I know, it's really funny.
Amazingly, democracy prevailed.
He's like, there were people, including the people I'm talking to right now, and including myself. Yeah.
Look how far we have come. And why did it happen? Well, a lot of reasons, but one reason is that Joe Biden decided that the issue in this campaign would not be just inflation or just national security, as important as these things are, but whether we're going to survive as a democracy or not, just as in 1860 or 1940. And so he took the very big chance, which is what a strong leader does, of giving that speech in your hometown of Philadelphia.
Okay, but this poll right here undermines what Beschloss is saying right now, because he's saying that Biden put democracy front and center, gave that speech, and look how voters responded. Well, look how voters responded. Democracy is not even an issue there. Of all the 5 most important issues, democracy is not even one of them.
Which really upset Dana Bash, as we reviewed the other day.
Yes, we played that clip where Dana Bash was shocked that democracy was not even in the top 5 issues for voters. So I love it. Like, as Beschloss is extolling the virtues of Biden's speech, where he talked about democracy's on the ballot, the voters who came out to vote, are making clear that this was not even in their top 5 concerns.
Right. Maybe that gray one that's untitled. Maybe that's it.
That could be it. Yeah, that's true.
What if they're waiting and they're in a second they're gonna have democracy flash on the screen?
Well, hey, I will eat
your words.
Yes, I will eat my words.
Philadelphia, and saying it again and again this fall that democracy is on the line. We may not survive as a democracy unless people turn out of the polls. So look what happened. That trend that you were talking about just a few minutes ago. Look at the last century, 1982 with Reagan, 94 with Clinton, 2010 with Barack Obama. First-term presidents lose a lot of seats in Congress. That almost always happens, unless you have a Cuban Missile Crisis or a New Deal or a national solidarity after 9/11. Biden didn't have any of those things, but look what he's.
Damn right Biden didn't have a New Deal.
Right, exactly.
Because he dropped his own plan, Build Back Better, pretty quickly, and didn't even try to pass some of the provisions individually. So yes, Biden certainly did not have a New Deal. And by the way, look at John Fetterman. I mean, he ran kind of a progressive campaign. He was to the left of Biden, and he wasn't talking nonstop about democracy, and he pulled off a victory. Now, of course, he was faced up against Dr. Oz.
Right.
Pretty terrible candidate.
Did not live in Pennsylvania. Yeah.
I mean, that certainly helped. Yeah.
Done this morning. He and the Democrats have held and may increase their hold on the Senate. They've got, as he was saying in the clip you just showed, a slim chance of holding the House, but at least it's going to be extremely narrow. And all those predictions that the Republicans in control of Congress would now try to shut off the lights to the Justice Department, impeach Joe Biden 10 times for reasons not known. All this has now gone into thin air. This is a very happy week, no matter what your party affiliation, for anyone who loves democracy.
Well, democracy somehow prevailed. What a week to celebrate. And again, how fortunate are you to be a Democrat, where you don't have to do very much? You can, for example, pass a prescription drug bill that will lower costs, but not even for a couple of years, and for only a very small category of drugs. But because Republicans don't support anything positive for the majority of the population, they can look like they're kind of like doing their own version of the New Deal because the bar is so low.
Pathetic.
Well, that will close out today's show, I think,
Yeah.
Katie. I think we've come to the end.
We have
Democracy
come to the
won.
end. We
Democracy
haven't come to the
prevailed.
end of democracy, though.
We have not come to the end of democracy, thankfully. Yes. Yeah. All right. So everybody, you can, if you want more, you can tune into Colin. The link should be in the description for our after show chat, and to support us and get bonus content, you can go to usefulidiots.substack.com.
Yeah, we got a great spicy interview with Norman Finkelstein that you're not going to want to miss. And we saved a lot of the controversial stuff for the Substack only.
That's right. Norman's always a great interview, and he has a new memoir coming out soon.
With a great title.
Great title. I will burn that bridge when I get to it.
Yeah.
And, it's also very spicy, and it's a good book, and it comes out soon. We don't know exactly when, but soon.
Yeah.
And again, if you're in New York City tomorrow night, Katie and Miko Peled at the People's Forum,
it's going to be great.
7
I promise
p.m.
you, it's going to be a great time. Yeah. You're going to have a great time. And Miko will be signing books. And it's a great book, The General's Son.
Okay. Very cool.
All right.
All right,
Great.
everybody. Thanks for tuning in.
Thanks, everyone. See you at Colin.
Bye.